Hello learners, welcome to Triaright. Now we have moved on to this part in Java progress that we will be learning about networking. Today we will learn about the sockets and server sockets here in networking. So by the end of this lecture, we will be basic. We have the basic. We have all the ideas about or how to understand the basics of computer networking in Java. We'll be standing. We will have the idea about understand the basics of computer networking in Java and use socket and server socket classes for TCP communication. We'll be using the socket and server socket classes for TCP communication and build a simple client server application using Java. And finally, we will handle basic input and output open network sockets. Finally, we will handle the basic input and output network sockets. Now, coming on to this networking in Java, we have the Java that provides powerful networking APIs in Java.net package. It's the Java APIs are provided in Java.net package. Yeah. Now, two primary communication protocols here are TCP reliable connection based, TCP that is reliable connection based, TCP reliable connection based, and UDP faster connectionless that is faster, and that is fast, and connectionless that is connectionless. Not covered here, it is not covered here, but we are not covering it here. But for the key concept, we will have IP address. We will have the IP address. They are the unique addresses for devices in network. They are the unique addresses for the devices in network. And following that, we have the ports, the logical channel, just a logical channel for the services. And then we have the TSP socket, which is the endpoint for two ways communication. And now coming further, we have the server socket also, which listens on a port and accepts client connections, which listens on a port and accepts all the client connections. Now, classes in Java networking. Now there are different classes in Java networking. The classes such as socket that connects to a server socket that connects to a server. There's server socket too that listens to a client connection. That there is a server socket which listens to the client connections. And now there is inet address which represent an IP address. Now basic TCP client server structures. Now coming to the basic TCP uh, client server structures, we have the server program. We have the server program here as we have to import this from java.io.star. We have to import this program from java.io.star and import this from the package java.io.star also. Java.io.star and java.net.star. We will import these packages here. And now we have the public class as simple server. Now we have the class as simple server, and it has a main method line which will throw exception IO exception, which will throw IO exception. And public, now there is a server socket of service socket type. There is a server socket of the server socket with the help of this new server socket 1234. There is a server socket of the server socket with the help of this new server socket. And now so there is there is a printing line which will print the message that server started while waiting for a client, and we should print the line server started and is waiting for the client. And there is a client socket. There's a client socket of the socket, and server socket dot will accept for this accepting. We accept different servers for the server socket by the function server socket dot accept blocking calls. It will block all the calls. It will help. This will help us in blocking all the calls. And it will be printing. Now there will be a line printed as client connected. Now the clients are connected for blocking the calls. After the blocking the calls, the clients are collected. And now the buffer reader in equals new buffer reader. For that buffer reader, we have to use for getting a buffer reader. We will have buffer reader in dot new buffer reader, and which will be done by the new buffer reader, and with the client socket dot get input stream. This will get all the input stream from the for the client socket. From the client socket, you get all the input stream, and there will be print writer out. It has a out method. It has out object. The new print writer object print writer, yeah, which has the client socket dot get out stream, get output when the client socket or get output stream becomes true, when the value is true, client socket, there is an output to be found from the get output stream, client dot get output. Then when this is true, then only then the output will be went to this output. Coming further, we have the string input line. We have the input line as while input line integer was not equal to null when the until and unless the input line in dot read line not equal is not null, then there is a then there is a input line, then there is input line and the client says the input line, the client will say this message will be printed with the input line, and the system and print line and out dot println, it will not be a system but it will be out dot println. It will produce an echo and of this input line that this line is being printed, and if input line dot equals ignored case, it ignores all the cases here. Yeah, and similarly it will print it will input streamline dot equal ignored case with the message by, and then we have the break command here. Yeah, then we'll be closing in and out in dot close like in out dot close, and then client socket dot close also and server socket dot close also. Following this, we are after that we will coming up with the client socket. After that we are coming up with this client socket program. We have to import the packages as import java.io.star and import java.net.star, which has a class simple client. Which has a class simple client, which has a main method line as public static void main which throws IO exception, and now there is a socket. There is a socket of this new socket localhost 1234 socket of this new socket localhost 1234. It has a buffer reader input. It has buffer reader input from new input stream reader system router. Whatever the whatever the input that will through the system in, it will take the input all the input. It will take the all the input through the system routine. And now we have the out reader. It will display all the output. It will display when there is an output to be displayed. When there is an output to display. So this function will, when this will be true, the we can follow the for the person buffer reader in equals new reader new buffer reader new input stream reader socket dot get input stream. Yeah, here buffer reader in this will accept all the values from this socket dot get input stream. When this method will have a get input stream reader, it will accept all the input from this socket dot get input stream. Yeah, now string user input. Now when there is a string user input, and while these inputs are not equal to input user input equals input stream read line. When these are not equal, dot ignore this by. Then when these input are not equal to this write lines dot read line and dot equals ignored case by, then outdoor printed in the user input. There will be a user input. There will be these lines will be given to this user input, and there will be out printed and the server response in dot get write in dot read line in dot read line. Now when we started all these functions, so we need to close it. Input dot close and out dot close a dot in dot close also, and socket dot close finally. Finally, we are moving on to the how it works here. The server it binds the port using server socket. The server bind the port using server socket and wait for the connection accept. It will wait for the connection accept. Now there is a client connections using there is a client on the client side. We have the connections using socket. Therefore, the host and port. The connections connects using socket. There is a connections using socket. Now it sends or receives data from streams. It will send data and receive data through these streams. Now coming further, we have these streams. The input stream reader and its readers, which receives the data from the socket. They receive the data from the socket, and output stream reader and writer they send data to the socket. The output stream reader and writer they send data to the socket. Now buffer reader and print reader. are used for the line-based communication. When we want to do line-based communication, then this buffer reader and print writer, they are useful in this line communications. Now coming further, we have the important tips as we should always close socket and streams after use, and we should use try catch finally or try with resources, and we should avoid using same port number in multiple server apps. We should use different port number in different server apps. For multiple clients you will need multi-threading, and in advance, yeah, we need multiple threading in multiple clients, yeah. Now coming to the end, we have studied for the different star server, the new server socket, which act as the port, yeah. Now clients connects line. For connecting client, we use new socket as host and port, as host and port. Now read from the socket, we use buffer reader. Read from the socket, use the buffer reader. And to write from to socket, use the print writer. To write to the socket, use print writer. Now we are on the end of the class. We'll meet in the next class. Thanks.